Hey, what's going on, everybody? Leigh-Dickey here. Welcome back to the Beats and Speaks podcast. On this episode, I tell you guys about my problems with sleeping. I can't seem to sleep right lately. It's happened more than once in the last little while, and I think I'm about 3/4 of the way to being an insomniac, and I'll tell you why coming up on this episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. But first, just a quick reminder that the Beats and Speaks podcast with yours truly, Leigh-Dickey, is available on my official website, leightdickey.com, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, TuneIn, and everywhere else podcasts are available. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get into this episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. So, like I said in the intro, I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm about 3/4 of the way to being an insomniac, I think, because I wonder if anybody else feels the same way that I do, or has the same, I don't want to call them symptoms, but has the same sort of nights and sleeping patterns as I do. I work late into the evening most nights because it's just easier to record and be creative in the evenings and into the late night for me when it comes to either recording this podcast, the Beats and Speaks podcast, available now wherever podcasts are available, or creating anything really when it comes to, say, graphic design or photography or anything that I'm into, or working on my website or editing a video, things like that. It's easier for me to work in the evenings and into the late night because it's quiet around my house. So lately, I don't know, it's some nights I can get a decent night's sleep where if I get to bed, say 1, 2 in the morning, I can wake up 7 or 8 hours later, so that would be like 9, 10 o'clock, and I'd be okay. Or I can get to bed. Some nights I'll even conk out earlier, around 12, 12:30 a.m., and I'll get up at, say, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'll be fine, no problem, right? But last night, like the day that I'm recording this, today is August 14th, and last night, so August 13th, I had just a hell of a time trying to get any sort of sleep. I was up late last night, so I didn't get to bed till about, well, I decided to finally get to bed and conk out, if you basically do the moonwalk onto my mattress at about 2 in the morning and just shut everything down for the night. I don't know what happened. I was super wired, but I had decided, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'll attack this again tomorrow. I'll get back to whatever I was working on again in the morning, right? That was the plan. It didn't quite go that way. What happened was I moonwalked onto my mattress. I basically fell backward because my bed is, well, I'm recording this in my bedroom, so my bed's like right behind my desk chair, and I'm sleeping, but I'm tossing and turning, just trying to get comfortable, right? I'm like, I'm okay, I'm good. I was still dressed at that point because it was like 2 in the morning, and I, hadn't really gotten comfortable. I'd come home at maybe like 8:30, 9 o'clock, had dinner, and then, maybe watched a little TV, watched a little Netflix. And then I figured, okay, let's just do some other media-related consulting sort of radio, television, or performance work that I need to, get done. But that happened for about 3 or 4 hours, and once I start rolling, it's hard for me to stop. But I had made the decision, once it got to be about close to 2 o'clock, or even right at 2 o'clock in the morning, this morning, August 14th, that I was just going to shut it down for the night and get back to it in a few hours, when I was more fresh and my eyes weren't so heavy and the bags weren't as pronounced underneath my eyes there. However, I guess my body and brain had other ideas. Thanks, guys, because you completely messed with my day today, and it's not the first time this has happened. But my brain just wouldn't shut off. I was trying to get comfortable in bed, tossing and turning, thought I was getting comfortable, and then my eyes were wide open. I was just like, what's going on? What's going on? I want to get to bed. Like, why am I wide awake? I hadn't had any coffee. Actually, I rarely, if ever, drink coffee anymore. I'll actually tell you that story in a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. But I couldn't figure out why my brain was still wired and why it was still on, why it hadn't shut down, why I was wide awake. I don't get it. I'm 3/4 of the way to being an insomniac. You know what I mean? I'm Bart Simpson, basically. Can't sleep, clown will eat me. Can't sleep, clown will eat me. It's just, I couldn't understand it. I still can't get it. I got to bed at 2 in the morning, tossing and turning, looking up at my ceiling for about the next hour. I turn over, I look at my wristwatch because I don't actually have an alarm clock in my room. So I look at my wristwatch, I pick it up off my desk and go, oh, it's 3 o'clock. You know what? Why don't we start working again? So I got up, sat in my desk chair, which is right next to my bed, and started working again for about an hour, 15 minutes. Or, no, well, no, not even that. Maybe like 20, 30 minutes, really. And it got to be, 3:20, 3:30. I'm like, okay, I have to go to bed. Like, this is getting ridiculous now. I don't understand why I'm wide awake. I don't want to be wide awake. I want to look at the back of my eyelids. I want to visit the Sandman for the night. I want to have sweet dreams. But I'm wide awake, and I'm wired, and I can't figure out why. And can't sleep, clown will eat me. Can't sleep, clown will eat me. I don't get it. Why am I wide awake? I'm completely wired, and I don't want to be. You know what I mean? It's the weirdest, strangest, annoying feeling that I could ever have. I mean, thus far in my life, who knows? I mean, I've probably got many, many, many more decades in front of me, but it's happened more often than it hasn't lately. I can't figure out why some nights I will be lying in bed, tossing and turning, and then I turn over onto my back, and I'm staring at the ceiling, counting the dots and the amount of just staring at the amount of white paint that's in this room. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm repeating can't sleep, clown will eat me all night because I can't sleep because clown will eat me. For some reason, I mean, I think Bart was onto something there, right? I don't understand why I'm wide awake. I'm basically an insomniac. Thankfully, it doesn't happen every night, but it happens more often than it doesn't, and it's happened more often than it hasn't lately. So, do any of you have nights like this where you'll get to bed at, say, 2 in the morning, wake up at 3, work for maybe half hour to an hour or whatever, or an hour or two, and try to get back to bed, and then nothing happens? You just lie there? Because that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, like I said, I decided to shut everything down at 2 o'clock, decided to shut myself down at 2 o'clock this morning, and it just wouldn't happen. It did not compute. The servers would not shut down. My internal hard drives were going, you're wide awake, you're going to stay wide awake, and there is no such, like, NyQuil wouldn't work, nothing. Not that I needed to take NyQuil last night, I really didn't, but it's just nothing I could have done worked. Nothing I tried to do worked. I tried, getting up and going to the bathroom, maybe that was it, nothing. I was wide awake, and then I managed to probably get 2 or 3 extra hours, after getting up at 3 and working for about a half an hour or so, 20, 30 minutes, I got back into bed and managed to sleep for maybe 3.5 hours, if that, maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes, so it was probably 6:45 when I did get up, and we're here now. It's actually 3 in the afternoon, and I haven't gone back to bed. My eyes are starting to feel a bit heavy, but I've basically gone the entire day on, say, maybe 3.5 to 4 hours of sleep, something like that, in that neighborhood. And it just drives me nuts. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I want to get a good night's sleep, but I'll have those nights where I'll be wide awake and wondering what's going on, not that, I guess that creative side of my brain, I don't know, just never shut off last night. I'll have nights like that where I'll have an idea about something, or I'll think of something and it'll keep me awake, I guess. But usually, like when I want to go to bed and I hit the pillow, 3, 2, 1, and I'm visiting the Sandman. Mike Tyson's knocked me out. Come see me in a few hours. Come see me in the morning, bud, because I am done. And that didn't happen last night. I don't know what the deal was. Have you guys ever had something like that where you'll get to bed late, but you'll get up like 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours later, and yet go through a full day as if everything is fine, like you're completely fine, you're not tired whatsoever? And that's a strange feeling with me anyway. The older I get, the more likely it is that I can run on less sleep. The older I get and the less sleep I get, I guess the better I feel. I don't know. I can function on maybe 3.5, 4 hours sleep. I haven't had to do that since college or university, and that was nearly a decade ago now. It boggles the mind. I don't know what to even tell you guys anymore. Like, how does something like that happen? I've been running on like 3.5, 4 hours sleep, and I still feel okay. I mean, yeah, the bags under my eyes are probably horrendously large. I mean, granted, I haven't looked in the mirror lately today. I mean, not unless I have to go to the bathroom and stare into the vanity for a little bit, but I haven't had to do that in the last few hours. So, I don't know. I tried to get some sleep last night. That wasn't the plan. Somebody said you're going to be wide awake and you're still going to do some work and you're going to be creative. I'm not sure. I mean, I wanted to go to bed, but somebody, I guess, some divine intervention, if you want to call it that, decided, hey, this guy's going to have a late night, and he's probably going to talk about it on his new podcast, the Beats and Speaks podcast with Leigh Dickey, tomorrow, or in the morning, or in the afternoon, or here we are now. And whoever thought that, whatever force was at work, was right, because here I am sitting in front of a microphone at about 3 in the afternoon on August 14th, telling you guys about my night and the night before, and not being able to sleep because my brain wouldn't shut off. I don't know what happened. I hit the shutdown button and was like, all right, we'll get back to it in the morning. But no, somebody said, you know what, you're going to be awake all night. You're going to have to deal with this all day. You're going to run on 3.5, 4 hours sleep. And you know what, you're going to be fine. I don't know what happens next. I mean, I may crash at around, I may internally crash at about 7 o'clock tonight, because that's usually what happens after I, run a full day without getting, I suppose, the proper amount of sleep or a decent amount of hours. So who knows? I may be sitting at a coffee shop in a few hours and my eyes may get really heavy and I may fall asleep sitting at that table or fall right into my drink. I don't know. It would be interesting, though, if you to see a guy double over because he's super tired while he's sitting at a coffee shop, so everybody just keeps staring at him anyway. Not that doesn't already happen, because, I mean, I have to deal with people staring at me every day anyway, so staring at me for doubling over onto a table into a drink at a coffee shop, probably not all that shocking. I don't know what to tell you guys, Like, the older I get, the less sleep I can run on, and the fact that I can run through an entire day and still be wide awake and be all right, it boggles my mind. It completely floors me. I don't even know what to think. Is this... I don't even know if this is like the final evolution into adulthood. The final progression. God, I sound like I'm out of a Pokemon game or something. Evolution into adulthood. Maybe that's what this is. This is what being an adult is all about, where you can run on very little sleep, but still go through a full day and still be absolutely, perfectly, astronomically fine. I have no idea. Maybe it's the fact that maybe I'm Superman. I don't know. Maybe I am Clark Kent. Maybe I work for the Daily Planet. Maybe this is Metropolis. I have no clue. Okay? It was just a really weird night for me, and I don't know what to make of it. But maybe you guys can help me out. I've probably asked this question about a dozen times during this podcast, but have you ever experienced something where you want to get to bed and it's late into the evenings, whether you're coming home from a night out or work or whatever, and you want to shut everything down for the night because you're super tired anyway, and it's just a good time to shut everything down because, like I said, I tried to get to bed about 2 in the morning, and I figured, okay, we'll get back to everything to like the next day or later that day. So I don't know. Have you guys ever had something like that where you try to shut everything down and everything just sort of backfires and has its own agenda, its own plans, and its own ideas, where you want to get to bed, but your body's like, nah, we're staying awake. We're having a one-man party. You're going to stare at the ceiling, or you're going to get back to work, or you're going to turn your laptop on and do other things. You know what I mean? Are you going to have to entertain yourself until your eyes get so heavy that you just fall over onto your keyboard or fall over onto your tablet? Who knows? Fall over onto your phone. It was an interesting night, to say the least. I have had more of those nights in recent memory than I can remember. And it feels weird to me that I can run on 3.5 to 4 hours sleep, if not less than that, and run through a full day and I'd be okay. I guarantee you the crash tonight is going to be gnarly. It's going to be an absolute gnarly crash, and I'm going to wonder why I'm crashing, because if I crash like I did last time, it was about 7 o'clock in the evening the last time I had a night like this one, where I was up all pretty much late into the night, early into the next morning. I got maybe an hour of sleep or so, or 2 or 3, and I went through a full day. It was completely all right, but by the time, say, 7 o'clock that evening rolled around, and I'd been up for maybe like 11 or 12 hours, running on probably around 3-4 hours of sleep, I crashed, and my eyes were super heavy at that point, and I just figured, okay, that's it. If, I'm going to talk a little more to some people that I know and talk to some friends, but once they go for the night, I'm probably going to head out as well and go home and probably just walk as fast as my legs will carry me, because that's another thing. I like to walk everywhere, right? So if I have the proper amount of sleep, or if I feel okay, like getting from my home to the local coffee shop that I go to every day, it takes about, I'd say half hour, 45 minutes, if I'm okay, if I'm wide awake. When I'm tired, and the last time this happened, where I was up late into the evening and then got up really early the next day, within no more than 5 hours, I'd say, I went through a full day, was completely fine, and then went to this local coffee shop, worked for a little bit, maybe a couple hours, and then my eyes just went and got really heavy, and I was staring at the back of my eyelids, It was sort of like, okay, go to sleep, and good night. And it just, that's the Sandman for you, man. It just sort of, there's the pixie dust, and woo, off to the Sandman we go. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? But that's the story of my night. The night where, or one of my many nights where I've had gotten to bed really late or early into the next morning. Like I said earlier, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning by the time I decided to shut everything down. But I got up, it was like the first time it was like 3 o'clock, because I was tossing and turning, couldn't sleep. So I did a little more work for maybe 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes at the most. And then tried to get back to bed, was tossing and turning for a little bit. Looked at my watch again. The next time I looked at my watch, it was 6:45. So I figured I got a little sleep in there, but it wasn't much. Have you guys ever had nights like this? Let me know. But this wraps up this episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I have been your host, Leigh Dickey. Just a reminder that you can also find the Beats and Speaks podcast on my official website, leightdickey.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and everywhere else podcasts are available. Subscribe to and download the Beats and Speaks podcast. Write a review of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Let me know what you guys think. Post them in the comments. Tell your friends about the Beats and Speaks podcast. There will be more of these episodes as long as I can keep thinking of content. There are more of these episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast with your host, Leigh Dickey. That would be me, coming soon. But thanks again for listening. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the Beats and Speaks podcast wherever podcasts are available. And we will see you guys in the next one. All right, this is Leigh Dickey for the Beats and Speaks podcast. Leigh Dickey Beats and Speaks on YouTube. LeighTDickey.com. Signing off. Peace.